Okay.
The effects of underprivileged youth. According to Robbins, Sagman, and Smith, 2012, there are 3 factors that affect underprivileged youth. Parents have little income and fail to support members of family. As a result of low income, the children in these families as young as 24 months old show lower cognitive and behavioral skills when compared to peers of middle-class families. Children at an even greater risk for disadvantage in life if raised by a single parent who has a low education level and low income. What are the numbers? 24 million children in the U.S. belong to families who face economic hardship. 11.4 million of those children belong to low-income families. Of these 11.4 million, 12 live in extreme poverty, and 4.7 million children are affected by parents who have low income and low education, single-parent households. 1.7 million children are being raised by parents who lack a high school education, and 0.7 million children are being raised by single-teen moms. Underprivileged youth and education. Children that live below the poverty line are 1.3 times more likely to have developmental delays or learning disabilities compared to middle class. 40% of children living in poverty aren't prepared for elementary school, and by the end of the 4th grade, low-income students are 2 years behind in grade level. By the time they're in 12th grade, they are 4 years behind level. So that means when they're in 4th grade, they would read at a 2nd grade level and do math at a 2nd grade level. Children living in poverty have higher absences or leave school altogether for family. A lot of this time, the reason this happens is because they have to take care of their younger siblings, they have to stay home when the parents go to work, so they can't go to school, and they drop out to take care of older generations and help out with the family. Dropout rates for 16 to 24-year-old students who live in poverty are 7 times more likely than middle-class families. Parent involvement in delinquency. A study conducted by England, Lucker, Whaley, and England 2001 showed that parental involvement both at home and at school is significantly related to children's academic achievement. According to Tusch and Schwartz 2018, today's youth show a strong commitment to school and learning, and they have positive outcomes with life and home. A strong connection to school has shown lower levels of substance abuse and delinquency. Low-income parents are typically less involved due to working long hours and trying to make ends meet. So they're not making sure that they have their homework done and they're getting to school on time because they are trying to work and put food on the table. Herschel in 1969, he came up with the social bond theory, and that explains that delinquent acts occur when an individual's bond to society is broken. So if they don't feel connected to society or they don't feel connected to a family, they are going to act out, and this is when those delinquent behaviors they occur. According to Burgess in 1952, juvenile delinquents areas of highly correlated with poverty and low income. So oftentimes the neighborhoods low-income families live in are high in crime and gang activity. According to Dr. Carlisle, a professor at Missouri State University, about 90% of hardcore gang members are high school dropouts. Children from low-income families said that school cannot prepare them to live in society, and the gang will provide income for their families. Underprivileged youth compared to middle-class and high-income families. Underprivileged youth from low SES income engage in more risky behaviors during adolescence than youth from middle-income families. Youth from low-income families are more likely to have sex before age 16, become a member of a gang, attack someone get into a fight, steal something worth more than $50, and run away from home. This happens more with low-income families than youth and middle-income families. 7% of girls that are underprivileged have a child by 18 years of age, while 2% of girls that are belonging in the middle-class family have kids by age 18, and 1% of high-income families. 1 in 10 youth from low SES backgrounds graduate from college, while 28% graduate from middle class and 50% of high-income families graduate. 20% of underprivileged youth in the U.S. are charged with a crime before the age of 24, 16% of youth from the middle class, and 12% from high-income families. 44% of youth from low SES families work from 18 to 21, 67% of middle class, and 75% from high-income families. Effects on relationship during adolescence. Although from every SES background, children can witness violence at home, but youth from lower SES backgrounds tend to have more exposure. These children can run into the problems of suffering from harmful future outcomes. Witnessing violence and family conflict is strongly correlated with increased depression in high school. Adolescents' exposure to community violence and gang-related activity has a strong correlation with a low high school grade point average and decreased enjoyment and interest in school. According to Holden and Leaf 2010, neighborhood violence has a negative impact on children's math and reading scores on standardized tests. Effects on adult relationships. Exposure to violence during youth has long-term life consequences. Children who are physically abused have decreased odds of getting married, less educational achievement, and reduced income in adulthood. Research on exposure to violence found that women from low SES backgrounds can't maintain stable employment. Women who are physically assaulted are significantly more likely to have unstable employment than women who do not experience intimate partner violence. 17% of cities reported that domestic violence was the primary cause of family homelessness. Adults with low socioeconomic statuses are 80% more likely to be depressed than adults with a higher SES, Butler 2014. So the conclusion is, after the research, it's prevalent that underprivileged children are at a disadvantage from the beginning of life. The quality of life is drastically different from underprivileged youth than of middle class and high-income families. They have more obstacles and challenges to face than their peers, and they have little to no challenge. When comparing the facts and numbers, there's a drastic difference in types of youth. Unfortunately, it appears to be a cycle. Youth from low SES backgrounds grow into adults with low SES backgrounds. If the cycle is not broken, this will just keep happening, and we are going to see higher levels of low SES families and youth.